Right. Well, the sexual act is obviously the way that creatures and people have come into this world. And therefore it's fundamental, it's basic to human existence as one would understand it from observation, just as much as food and air and water is, and warmth and so forth. Now, like eating, for instance, you can abuse the practice and end up ill, overweight, or whatever. And if you don't eat at all, of course, you starve to death, unless you're unbelievably exceptional, can live on air. So, when I say unbelievably exceptional, I think it's just very, very, very exceptional. I think it's believable, but okay. So, there are regulations. You don't want too much water, you drown. And too much sex, well, depletes the body of nutrition and energy and vitality. Too little may result in tensions that are not ideal. So, society's come up with a formula that seems to work, which is one partner, at least at a time. We have tried alternatives, Solomon with 1,000 wives or whatever, but not really recommended, unless you're a monarch of a buffer state that has to please everybody in the neighbourhood. And perhaps you end up pleasing none if you have that many wives. So we don't want adultery, because that depletes the family's resources. If you're running another woman, another man, takes your time, probably your finance, probably your attention, and so forth. We need a stability for the rather long childhood period, and it's best if we have both partners around. But the sexual act itself, it doesn't look as though it's wrong. We've got all sorts of taboos because we're trying to protect children, protect the weak, and so forth. But they are taboos. They have a function and a purpose, and it's not very wise to flout them. You may find society doesn't work half as well. If we think of problems of what we call promiscuity, which is emotively loaded now, of course, given society's record of culture, then, well, it has the downside of increased risk of illnesses that are pretty severe, and is an addiction, easily becomes an addiction. if we think of something like prostitution, well, it seems very functional, doesn't it, in some ways? And this, of course, is understood to be wrecking the lives of the parties involved. Such as the married parties. It's hard to see in itself what's so wrong about it from a single's point of view. It doesn't seem to be harmful in itself. Except where there's exploitation and desperate poverty that forces people into such an occupation which they wouldn't otherwise do. But then the fault is with poverty, not with the prostitution. Prostitution, again, is such a loaded, emotive word, isn't it? It's very hard to get away from such in being objective about things. So, I do think most religions heavily regulate sexual interactions with good reason, where we're protecting children or the weak. And where we want to protect from potential addictions. Otherwise, not clear. I know the extreme Muslim approach of locking up the women to control the issue seems abominable. It seems to result in women being, very much second-class citizens as regards their freedom and in society. It would seem then, in a world of available contraception, that has dramatically reduced the likelihood of unwanted children that wouldn't therefore be as cared for perhaps as they might. Given contraception then, and given the concern for protecting children in families, stable families, we need to adjust our attitude to the sexual act and sexuality in general. To accommodate such. and in particular not demonize sexuality in the way that we have in the past, though it was arguably more necessary then. Thank you, Heavenly Father.